Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of On Wellbeing. On Wellbeing is your podcast about health, wellness, and how to live your best lives. Every episode we bring in guests who are notable in their own industry, and today I'm really excited because we have one very interesting lady who is changing things in tech. Not just tech, but female healthcare in tech. What this means is that she is bringing together a community of entrepreneurs, self-starters, businesses, and everyone who is really keen to level up female healthcare using tech as an enabler. So I met this lady at an event about a couple of months ago, or maybe it could be 1 or 2 years ago, and I was really drawn by her enthusiasm about bringing this industry to the next level. So she is none other than the founder of the FemTech Association in Asia. Her name is Lindsay Davis. Hi Lindsay, how are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, and it's great to hear this podcast is launching, and I love what you're trying to do, just kind of bring the journeys and the experiences and what everyone's doing in the space of not only wellness, but overall holistic care.
Yeah, and FemTech is really interesting, but some people might not have heard of the term FemTech, right? So can you explain what is FemTech?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I think the first thing people hear when they hear FemTech is they think women in tech.
Yeah.
So they think, oh, women in tech. Or alternatively, a lot of people think I'm saying FinTech. So it's actually FemTech, or female technology. So it's any products, services, diagnostics that is supporting women's health in particular. That could be examples like menstrual trackers. That could be examples like hormonal health wearables. It could be examples even like supplements that are catered specifically for women's health needs, and also medical devices, anything for women's health.
But with a tech spin to it, right?
It does have a tech spin to it. I think, diving right in, that's a bit of a difference we have here in Asia right now. But I think we are starting to see a more tech-focused growth in FemTech, whereas right now we really see more of a kind of CPG, lower tech, things like organic menstrual care, or things that are a bit less tech per se. But that's definitely a trend that we're seeing, as more companies are launching in the actual device space, diagnostic space, and also with data and looking at AI and how that's starting to really change women's health.
Okay. You spoke about trends now. So what are the trends that you have been seeing, right, through the association and through the people that you have met with regards to female health tech?
Definitely. No, that's a great question. I think the first thing we're seeing is that the majority of businesses that have launched are pretty new, as in, around 70% or more have launched really since 2019, who are members of our association. So I think when it comes down to it, we're seeing that this is a relatively new field in name, but not necessarily women's healthcare, because women's healthcare has been around. But the term FemTech was actually coined in 2016 by Ida Tin, who started, a Danish entrepreneur who launched Clue, which is a menstrual tracking app. And so from that, she wanted to make sure that there was a space basically in investing where we could actually talk about the solutions that we were bringing to market. So with that in mind, I think a lot of what we're seeing trends now are just businesses starting. It's entrepreneurs starting to explore the space. It's investors taking their first steps in. We definitely see reproductive care still leading the way, but there's definitely, as I mentioned earlier, more of a trend towards AI integration as a tool into a lot of the solutions. A big trend in fertility, especially here in Singapore, now that social egg freezing is on the market, which is really exciting, providing women with more choice and opportunities to have their children and have their career or whatever they would like to do. It's all about that choice.
Okay, fertility, right, and reproductive health is a big thing.
Yes.
And given that FemTech Association Asia is Asia-based, right? What are perhaps your thoughts about the industry in Asia? How are we faring? If you have any insights to share, maybe from whatever studies that you have done, how are we doing versus the rest of the world?
Sure, that's a great question. So overall, Asia represents roughly 14%, give or take, of FemTech businesses worldwide. The US is still the leader in the space. When you look at Asia as a whole, we have similar numbers to a France or an Israel as far as the number of FemTech businesses. Now, the growth, though, we do believe will be exponential here. And that's volume of population, that's the incredible innovation we have on this side of the world, that's the incredible talent. And speaking about Singapore in particular, we have a fantastic business environment here for people to really succeed, start their businesses. There's a lot of entrepreneurship support. both from the government and from companies and accelerators and incubators. So I think that there is a lot of support here in Singapore for FemTech. We're starting to have first steps and first strides with government interaction, with corporates getting more involved. Right now we're seeing it's coming through the DE&I space or the HR divisions, but I think that will change in time as it becomes more evident that this really is an investment opportunity as well, specifically for businesses looking for kind of early adopter and a little bit longer term investment for exit. So that's pretty exciting.
Cool. So investors, what are they looking for when they, like for, let's say if there's a startup founder somewhere listening to our podcast and she's interested in starting something with regards to FemTech, what should she look for when attracting investors based on your experience?
Absolutely. I think, the first thing that, I would say I guess maybe we start with the founder perspective. Yeah. It's making sure that we're building businesses with a clarity on what we want to do with that business. So it's like, what is the exit strategy? Who would be interested in this type of business? It's understanding, I think, the different types of investors that we see. For instance, angel networks. I think everyone thinks just VCs, but there are a lot of other opportunities. An example would be Anna Vanessa Huatanto, who started Zora Health, who's absolutely brilliant. Yeah. And she just did, $1 million fundraise. Yeah. And it was majority, if not all, I seem to recall, angel investment and through her personal friends and family network. So I think it really just goes to show it's understanding the business one is building and just understanding who is going to invest in it. And so I think we see that through track records. There are VCs like Recharge Capital, and they're very focused on fertility, for instance, and actual bricks and mortar as well. So that is really interesting, and understanding who are the players in the field. Having said that, there's not a huge portfolio of investors here in Asia yet, but I think that's going to change, especially with more businesses in other countries looking to expand and seeing Asia as a huge growth market. And I think that's across almost every industry, not just FemTech, but Asia is the future of growth.
I think so. Like Asia is definitely like a place where there's a lot of energy and lots of investors looking at our region as well. What does FemTech Association Asia, I guess, have to offer in terms of like startup founders for them to really get started or maybe look for funding? Are you able to share a little bit more about what you guys do?
Thank you so much for asking. I always forget to talk about what I do day in, day out. So I launched FemTech Association Asia in October of 2021, but started working on it loosely in kind of the July-August timeframe of that year. We started with obviously no members and no companies, and have quickly grown to over 80 companies now across 9 countries in Asia. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but to see that growth is really exciting. To be able to create a platform that brings together founders, investors, media, enthusiasts, people who are just passionate about the space, corporates. We recently brought on a couple corporates like AXA, working with HSBC now. So we really have some passionate partners, and that's been exciting. So it's gone from focusing on membership to actually trying to build a broader ecosystem that brings in, different actors in the space, whether it's accelerators, whether it's investors coming in and saying, I'd love to just learn more about FemTech. We're trying to really be that resource that people can use to learn more about the space. Because I think fundamentally one of the biggest challenges is that education space. But for founders in particular, we kind of talk about our 4 key pillars, along with our general advisory and support, knowing the space quite well here in Asia. First of all, we work on thought leadership. So we try to create research because there is, a huge challenge that women's health has historically been very under-researched. So we're trying to create data, insights, research, touch points, numbers that support how amazing this industry is and how big the market is. Secondly, we look at programming. So that's running regular events where people can meet both online and offline, because we do have overseas founders as well who are part of our organization in the Netherlands, the UK, the US. So that's been really exciting. We also have amplification. So we're always trying to put a good face and a kind of a broad face forward for the industry here in Asia, whether that's on television, whether that's in news articles, whether that's on podcasts like this one with you. We really want to amplify the talent that we have here, the companies that we have here, the categories that are shining here and growing, and really just help people understand the industry better. And then finally, community building, which is kind of the key part. I think, before 2021, everyone kind of knew each other, but there was no unifying force. And so I think having that one strong voice in a place where people can come together and ask their questions. How have you overcome social media censorship? How have you managed cybersecurity and data security, which is another huge challenge? Or the great things like, I'm looking to expand into a new market. Specifically, we see Malaysia and Indonesia as key markets for movement of FemTech. And so does anyone have great advice on how to move into these countries and expand geographically? And these conversations are really valuable. So I think those are kind of our 4 key points: the thought leadership, programming, amplification, and community building.
Thanks so much for doing this for the community, right? So I'm a member of the FemTech Association.
You are indeed, yes.
And I have a WhatsApp chat that is very active. I mean, I have a few WhatsApp chats that are very active, and one of them is the FemTech Association.
Yes.
And I love it because people just ask questions like, oh, hey, I need a lawyer. Do you have someone to recommend? Or I need a HR manager. Do you have someone? So I guess it's a very neutral platform where people can really just share and get advice. Very meaningful, and I would say if you are a startup founder, if you are a corporate that's looking to invest in FemTech, I would say this is the platform that I have personally benefited from. I think this would be great.
So glad.
Yeah, I'm just curious to find out, like, what would, I guess, someone who's just generally interested in bettering themselves, like in wellness, in health, and they're female, and is there anything that they could gain from the association?
I think, so first of all, I wanted to point out, and thank you for raising that again. I feel like I should have you do my PR for me, instead of doing it for myself. So the first thing to notice is that for founders who are in our focus regions or our focus countries, it is free. So we're really trying to build something that founders can join a community without feeling like, especially if they're bootstrapping, there's one more cost. So it is free for founders. There is a fee for investors. There is a fee for enthusiasts who are passionate about the space. One thing that we found with our enthusiasts, and I guess this is the type of person you're talking about. So, an example would be here in Singapore, we did a 2022 survey on women's wellness or health, I should say, the consumer perspectives of women in Singapore. And 50%, so 49.5 or something, almost 50% of women said they prioritize their health and well-being above everything else. Now, we still saw that about 9% of women put their health last. Behind everyone else's, their family, their friends, their job, their everything. But to see 50% is really amazing and really positive. So how could this type of woman, for instance? So first of all, a lot of our enthusiasts volunteer with us. So an example would be, we have a wonderful woman, I won't say anyone's names just because I don't have their permission, but we have a wonderful woman working with us in Hong Kong who actually just conducted our Hong Kong survey, consumer survey. And she's like, I want to volunteer. I'm good at data and analytics. I'm good at research. So she's actually, pulled together a piece of work because she's like, I want to get involved and I feel like I want to use my skills, but I don't want to be a founder. How can I contribute? And we said, well, if you want to run this, feel free, and then, we'll publish her findings, put her name on it. She'll come present at our conference, or I should say event that's coming up this June, which I can talk about in a minute. Another example, I guess I can go right back to this, to the different events we have coming up. So we have an event coming up called FemTech Connect Asia. And the idea is that we're bringing together founders, investors, corporate partners, everyone across this region to say, let's talk about women's health. Let's talk about FemTech. Let's talk about the industry. Let's share as much research as we can to give more information to our founders so they can go to investor meetings with even more information. Let's give investors more data points or the opportunity to meet more founders, to really understand better the activity in our ecosystem. Let's bring together corporates who can come in and actually just understand where they can contribute even more. We need our corporate partners, that is to scale, whether that's looking at kind of B2B to C partnerships, their employees, or whether that's even saying, corporates who want to invest. So there's a lot of opportunities here. I'd like to thank our platinum sponsor, who is Cigna Healthcare, which is really exciting. And our venue sponsor, who's AWS. We have a few other, Amazon Web Services. We have a few other big sponsors in the works, but not signed on the line yet, so I can't say them out loud.
We'll do another podcast.
Yeah, exactly. That'll be the follow-up podcast. But I at least want to thank those who, this is a nascent field, certainly not niche, but a nascent field here in Asia. And I think to say we will support, the first ever Asia homegrown FemTech and women's health what we're calling a round table. I think that's really exciting. It shows a lot about the where we're moving and the commitment of not only the founders who are in it every day, like you, in it every day, day in, day out to support women, but also looking at, investors who are saying, I want to take this opportunity on, and I see potential here. And it's those who are looking for the next big thing. I think women's health is that next big thing.
For sure.
And I guess that's for me a huge passion. Before we started, you asked me how I got involved in FemTech. And I think, I have a really good friend, Rashmi Dalai, who's also in the association. And she said to me once, women's health and women's wealth. And I thought, that's brilliant.
That's nice.
That's what
Women's
we
health,
need.
women's wealth.
That's what we need for, gender equality, gender equity is for women to obviously be on par with earnings with men, with as much access to investments and education in investments and exposure to investments to be able to manage their money. The second part of that is, are we ensuring that women's health specifically is taken care of? And I think that's where I kind of saw my space.
Right?
Yeah,
Your
and
space.
I wish I was as brilliant as you and the other founders and doctors and media we have who are real experts in this field. But what I am good at and where I think I can fit is building this ecosystem and building a community that can bring everyone together. So it's kind of know your strengths and where you can contribute. And for me, this is my contribution to women's health.
Okay, I want to get a little bit personal here. Right?
Yes.
So I love your energy, by the way. I love how you're so passionate about
It's
FemTech
It's
and about building a community, right? What about Lindsay as a person? Like, who are you and why are you so interested in this topic? And you mentioned about your strengths. Like how did you even figure that this is your strength?
Gosh, personal is right. Yeah, and I should say I should have a cup of coffee if I need this much energy. So I think I think as I've gotten older, and this does come with age, with more hindsight, more years to reflect on our careers. So my background is all luxury product and luxury service.
Product. Okay.
Yeah. So I was international managing director for a luxury brand out of the UK. So lived in Europe for many, many years, became a British citizen, which is super exciting. And so originally from the US. I'd always worked on luxury brands or VIP kind of networks or, ultra high net worth and high net worth. So you're saying, well, how does that blend with healthcare per se? Well, I think when I moved to Singapore, which was a little over 4 years ago now, a very welcoming space, but I kind of knew I wanted to pivot my career and move more into tech. But what did tech look like in particular? I wasn't sure. So it was kind of starting to look around, and there are the obvious, the amazing talent you see at a Google or a LinkedIn or these big companies that are just absolutely incredible. And so I started down the path, and I actually ran across a wonderful woman at a conference that I was working, and she mentioned that she was working in FemTech, and this is Francesca Giri-Stingle, who works at a company called Fermata now, and I didn't know what it was, and so started investigating, and I was like, well, I'll just join the community, and I'll become an enthusiast in the community, and then I'll learn more about women's health and the field and the industry, and I love entrepreneurship, and I love tech, so this will be great, and then I realized there was nothing for me to join, so I thought, well, where do most businesses come from is that there's a gap in the market, and so I just said, well, let me start this and see where it goes, and so I think 2 years later to be sitting on a, beautiful sofa in this beautiful home with you talking about this, you as a member, me, working on this organization and talking about our big FemTech Connect Asia event we have coming up in June that has people flying in from Indonesia, people flying, from all over, from obviously people from Singapore, people from the Philippines. Like, it's really exciting to think that in 2 years, that passion here in Asia is there, and people are hungry for it.
It's really spearheaded by someone that really drives it, right? So, and I think you probably brought a little bit.
Thank you for saying that.
No, definitely.
That's really kind.
You really need someone to be the, someone to spearhead it, right? But perhaps your luxury experience also gave a little bit of that community angle.
That's it.
Yeah, I think that's it. So I guess it's sometimes everything happens for a reason, and every little step along the way really helps, I would say.
It does, and I think luxury could in and of itself be thought of as kind of a specialty field. And I guess maybe FemTech on some level is a specialty field. And it's really all about building the community around this, whether it's the consumer, the founder, the investor, the brands, the corporates. That I think is something similar. And I think community building really is something that I never realized I was good at it until someone, actually a friend here, my friend Karen here said, you're really good at community building. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the line. That is whatever Steve Jobs said about, the dots connecting in hindsight, right? That is, I think, what keeps connecting is community building. I love meeting people. I love working with people. I love creating things from nothing. So I think it's been really rewarding. And also it's just super interesting. Just plain curiosity and learning. I mean, if I didn't know about half the things I talk about, which just really goes to show how much we need consumer education as well, right?
Yeah. Okay, that's great. I mean, I love to see like how things start and stories about that. Like, I think it was just diving straight in and curiosity and like really just seeing the gap in the market, and that's really, really amazing, right? If there's anything you would like to share to our audience here, listening in and trying to understand a little bit about maybe how to get started in terms of FemTech, what would you say?
Definitely. So I think from a consumer perspective, it's really, I mean, it's as simple as you can kind of, type in the word FemTech and see what comes up, and start educating oneself on what opportunities are out there. I think it's really important for women to understand their bodies, their minds, their overall health, and start seeing if what they're experiencing is the average experience. Nothing's normal, so I don't want to use that word per se, because we're all different. But I think the first thing is for women to really try to understand their health better and really be invested and not just take the advice, which is very good, especially in Singapore. We have amazing healthcare. I think, but it's also really try to understand it, really ask the questions and really probe and make sure that one understands. From a founder perspective, I would definitely encourage founders or anyone who's even thinking about becoming a founder to reach out to us. We're happy to introduce them and help them, meet people and just have conversations to see if that is the career path they want to take, whether it's entrepreneurship and then specifically entrepreneurship and health, women's health. For investors, I would suggest that, again, they reach out to us and start understanding who the players are in the market and what's happening. We're happy to have a conversation anytime. And a big part of what we do is obviously education and trying to just raise awareness for women's health and kind of crush a lot of the taboos that might be holding some of these discussions back. So that's kind of
I think so. I think there's a lot of it's really highly under researched, a lot of lack of information. So thanks for really bringing a lot of knowledge, and I guess simply put, as I would imagine, this is education about female health, but using tech as a platform to really, I think that's what we need in today's day and age, to understand our bodies better in a way that we understand. Like, how can one look or find FemTech Association? Maybe social media. How do I reach out to you?
Yes. Well, exciting. We just hit 3,000 on our LinkedIn page, which sounds small, but it's all about growth and getting more people to see. So they can find us on LinkedIn at FemTech Association Asia. We're on Instagram at FemTech Asia. And then obviously my name is Lindsay Davis. Everyone's just welcome to reach your Google. You can Google me all you want. So you can Google me and I'll show up, especially if it's related to FemTech here in Asia. You can find other podcasts I've been on or articles that I've contributed to, or most importantly, my contact information that anyone's welcome to reach out anytime. Always looking to help entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs who are trying to improve women's health, which is just so critical. Women's health and women's wealth. We can get those two things sorted.
Women's wealth. That's where the money is.
That's right. That's also where the money is. Exactly.
Nice. Thank you so much, Lindsay, for sharing with us. Any last words that you would like?
No, just I think everyone please, come out to FemTech Connect Asia this June. And any questions or other ideas or just curiosity, feel free to reach out. We're an open community. We want everyone to be a part of it.
Thank you, Lindsay.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you.
That's all we have today on well-being. Thank you for joining us for today's episode. Tune in for more conversations about health, happiness, and living your best lives. Until the next time, my name is Cheryl Han. Take care and be well.